Hi everybody, my name is Glitzen Goretta and today I'm going to be doing a rant video. And I know what you're all thinking, but Glitz, all you've done are rant videos. And yes, you're right. They are all rant videos, but this particular rant video actually comes around because I have received some news that a friend of mine is actually being stalked. Now when I say stalked, I don't mean like somebody's coming to her work all the time, that they're just kind of in the same places conveniently. I mean to the point that this person has actually broken into her home to get closer to her. They're stood outside her house, they're constantly calling her and messaging her, and it's just kind of gone on from there to the point that the police have now had to get involved. And I'm really kind of worried for her safety at this point, because this person has just become seemingly obsessed with her, and it's actually kind of terrifying. So for the sake of this video, I am gonna call my friend Kelly, and we're gonna call her stalker Ashley. So Kelly actually met Ashley quite a while ago, and their friendship just kind of dissolved. Ashley moved, I think, away, and then Ashley's come back and specifically targeted Kelly, and it's really upsetting. So I've come to a realisation that Kelly won't be the only person that is going through this. There will be people who are already going through this, and unfortunately there will be people who will have to go through this. People use the term stalking quite loosely nowadays. What stalking actually means is to pursue or approach someone stealthily. It means you're always kind of in the background. The kind of stalking that's happening to Kelly at the moment has become so aggressive. She's actually very frightened. She feels like she can't sleep. She's kind of looking over her shoulder all the time, and I'm sure there are a lot of people that have really unfortunately had to go through this kind of situation, and it can be really horrifying to go through. I very luckily haven't had to go through this, but I have thought at different points that I have been followed, and just by chance I've already kind of read something somewhere or had someone with me to help me get through the situation at the time. So Kelly has obviously had to contact the police about this. Ashley has just really... I don't even have any words to describe this. It's just such a frightening thought. I'm really worried about her right now. Is the situation that she's in, the position that she feels like she's in at the moment is awful. And it makes it worse because I feel like I can't do very much for her at the moment, and I really want to. So to give you an example of a stalking situation, this is one that has always stuck in my mind, just because of how severe this became and how it got out of control, even though someone was in control, which would have been the police. And I'm not pointing out flaws in anything. This is simply what I have read and have just kept with me all along. So the story I'm actually going to tell you is a true story. This really did happen, and you can find it all across the internet if you search the right things. I actually only know about this because it is something that my father told to me out of topic of conversation one day. So back in 2005, on the 13th of September, at around 7:45 at night, a young lady named Claire Burnell was at work at Harvey Nichols in London. She stood behind the cosmetic counter that she worked on while talking to a colleague who was telling her that they would be able to go home soon as the store would be closing soon. Now what Claire didn't know is that her former ex-boyfriend had entered the building with a gun, who had now locked and loaded this gun and placed it at the back of her head before firing. Around 4 shots were fired, one which killed Claire and another one which killed the former boyfriend, who was 30-year-old Michael Pesh, who was a security guard from the same store. Now, this just kind of says that anybody can really turn out to be a stalker, and that alone is absolutely terrifying. But what made Michael so different to just any general one, besides the fact that he locked and loaded a gun and shot his former girlfriend just because she said that the relationship was over, is the length of time he spent kind of harassing this girl to get her to love him. Michael and Claire had actually started dating around February 2005, when Claire and her family said that Michael became completely obsessed with the girl. She said that it wasn't a serious relationship, that she didn't really consider it love, and that it wasn't to be taken seriously. However, Michael unfortunately seemed just to be besotted with this girl, and he saw that in his power he had to just have this girl with him, or she wouldn't be with anyone. So he went to extremes of standing outside her house. He'd call her while he was stood outside her house. He would text her, he'd follow her around, he'd follow her to work. He followed her to work even after he was suspended from the workplace for doing such things. And this is kind of where it took its big turning point and the most unfortunate outcome happened. I can't even begin to imagine the kind of pain or loss that her family will feel in this, just because one guy kind of went a bit crazy, well, not even a little bit, because one guy went completely nuts and became obsessed with this girl. I think people really need to learn that when they say no, it means no. So Claire had actually gone about this by calling the police and telling them what was going on. Unfortunately, at the time, the police didn't really understand what to do in such a case. This was still a very new thing. It was very new ground to them. It was still being debated and decided, but the police were doing everything that they thought was right. Claire was doing everything that she thought was right, and it came to a point where a court case happened and Michael was charged for stalking her, and Claire actually did think that this entire nightmare was over until the day he walked in the store with a gun. The colleague that was stood with Claire actually managed to get away alive. He didn't shoot anybody else. He actually only shot her and himself. So everybody else was able to evacuate the store quickly. The reason I told you this story is because it shows just how quickly stalking can become such a serious thing. How someone can lose their mind so quickly and think that one thing is right, or know that these things are not right. Michael Pesh actually knew what he was doing. He was arrested 3 separate times for this case, and each time he did seem to receive his bail, and he just went back to doing exactly what he was doing before. I'm really scared for my friend's safety now. It's at a point where we're trying to find her an attack alarm, we're trying to find her defences, just in case Ashley comes up to her. And it's such a scary thought that while this happens to your friend, that you can't always get to them, you can't always protect them as much as you want to, because you have to kind of get on as well. I know how selfish that sounds to say that I have to get on with my life, but Kelly is doing everything she can to get on with her life. She is still going to work, she is still seeing friends, and I'm really proud of her for doing this so far. There are things that are really still getting in the way. She's very scared at the moment. She's not able to sleep very well. She doesn't like being left alone. She doesn't want to be in the house by herself. And this is all because of what this one person has done. And it's an extreme that you shouldn't ever be pushed to. Now I'm going to give you a couple of ways that you'll be able to react if you think someone is stalking you or following you. The first way is you need to cut off all contact with this person. If you really think that they are starting to stalk you, to follow you around, all conversation, communication needs to stop. While this seems like a really extreme thing to do, it's actually the start of you stopping them from getting any closer to you, to stop them from knowing that they're actually affecting you, because that is what they want. They want to affect you, they want to be in your life, so you need to make sure that they are not. So what I mean by cutting off communication is that you stop talking to them, you don't respond to any form of phone calls, any form of text messages or internet messages, that friends of theirs do not pass messages across to you. You need to make it clear that you are no longer interested and that it is to stop when you say it is to stop, because you feel ridiculously uncomfortable. What you to do instead of responding to these messages is you just save them, you jot them down just for evidence in case this does get any worse. Hopefully this first step will be the only step you will need to take. As I've said, this person is wanting to see a reaction from you now, and they will probably try and do anything they can to get you to respond to them, and as hard as it may be, you now have to try and be as stone-faced as you possibly can. It can be very hard, and if you can't do it, that isn't your fault. What they are doing is not your fault, and that is something you will have to remember. No matter what they do or how hard they start to push, none of this has been asked for, and this is not your fault. Now, if things do become a little bit more serious and they do start speaking to you in a threatening manner, or they directly do threaten you, it isn't to be taken lightly. Please don't think that they're joking. It is something that you do need to speak to the police about. It's the start of everything going wrong, and it's the start of you making it stop and putting it right. It can be very hard to do. Speaking to the police sometimes about things can be very unnerving for some people, and there are other ways to get hold of them. You don't always have to ring 999. Sometimes you can ring 101, and even better, you can talk to somebody online. The other thing you can do is you can change your technological contacts, such as your phone number and your email address, and do ask people not to give these out with your permission. They're not to be passed across to anybody without your knowing. I do understand that sometimes these things can be very out of your hands, and it's something that sometimes you do need to understand yourself, and having friends and family support you through these times is actually a really good thing to do. Going through this by yourself can be a very scary thing. You will need other people's help if things have gone further and this person hasn't left you alone. People at work should probably know what this person looks like, what this person is trying to do, and what you would like to do to prevent feeling uncomfortable. You do not deserve to feel uncomfortable at work, and you do not deserve to feel uncomfortable at home. You should be able to just get on with your life, and sometimes it is very hard to do. I do understand that, but with help from friends and family, hopefully you will be able to get back on and just kind of carry on with your life. So a piece of information I offered to Kelly tonight is that she tells her neighbours what is happening at the moment. It's not something you always want someone to know, But in this case, Kelly actually needs neighbours to know. So if Ashley is seen hovering around, they can phone the police and tell them that Ashley is there, that they can tell Kelly just to stay inside and away from Ashley. It's a really great help possibly to have neighbours know that this situation is happening, just so that they can be aware and they can help you out as much as possible. I know that sometimes you don't always speak to your neighbours. Kelly actually has never spoken to her neighbours before, but she is going to put herself out there just to make sure that this stops. Sometimes it's unavoidable to not have to speak to this person that could be following you or stalking you. If they do insist that you reply, or you feel that you have to reply, what you actually need to be saying to them is that you do not want any further contact with them, you don't like the way that they're making you feel, or that the relationship has well and truly ended and they need to just leave you alone now. You are actually entitled to tell them the consequences of their actions, which does mean you can tell them you can phone the police or that you will call security. Sometimes it's not the best thing to tell them, but you will know by the character that they are and the kind of person that they're showing to be now. So if you have to be going out late at night or early in the morning, it is still very dark. If possible, try and not walk alone. Try and stay in busy areas. Just make sure that you're constantly covered. You need to just remember that safety does come in numbers, and asking friends to walk you to your home if you feel that you are being followed or stalked is a good thing. If there's one thing I've been taught, if I feel like I'm being followed or if I feel like I'm being stalked, is that if I am actually on my way home when I notice this, is I am actually not to return to my own house. I'm to go somewhere else, which could be a busy street with shops. I could go to a local pub. As long as I go somewhere that there are a lot of people, where I will be able to ask for a security guard or a member of staff and tell them that I feel uncomfortable and explain my situation to them. This can also happen while you are driving, which again, you are not to return home. You are to drive somewhere safe, such as a local club or the nearest shopping centre. If needs be, you do not get out of the car, and you are to ring the police immediately if you really are being followed. So some of you may have children, some of you may have pets, some of you may have both, and some of you may have none of these. If you do have children and pets, this is a prime time for you to be keeping your security that little bit tighter. So if you do have children, make sure that your kids do understand that they're not to go off with anybody but you or family members. Make sure that they know who will collect them from school, who will take them out. If they are to get separated from you, that they're to try and find usually a police officer. They can find the crossing guard. They could go into a shop and ask a staff member for them to help them. One of the most common ones today is for a child to actually go and ask another mother with children or a father with children for their help, because they are most likely to trust them a little bit more. It does make them feel safer when there are other kids around them. The other thing you can do is you give your child a safety word when they're being collected by someone that they may not know very well. If this person does know the safety word too, that will be obviously the best thing, because that's what you've given them the safety word for. So if you have pets, this is also a time where you cannot really be leaving them outside by themselves, especially dogs. Cats not so much, because obviously cats go outside by themselves, dogs do not. So if you do leave your dog outside, unfortunately this is going to be a time where you're really not going to want to. It's better to keep them indoors with you, as some people really will target your animals as well, because it is a method of getting to you, which is what they're wanting. So if you just try and keep them indoors for the period of time that this is happening, try and take them out with you when you need to, but try and not leave them alone. So there are a lot of ways that you will be able to find online of how to react if you think you have a stalker, what to do if you think you have a stalker. There is actually a lot of information online. You can also contact your local council for more information. You could probably contact the police as well for more information and safety on this. I'm sorry that this has been a sergeant safety video here. It's not going to be the theme of my videos, but I feel at the moment with Kelly's situation, I really want to put this across that people shouldn't be going through this alone, that you do need to take precautions, and it is awful that it is going to impact your life so much, but it will only be for a temporary time as long as you make sure somebody knows and that you make it clear that you have no further desire to have any contact with this person or these people. Just try and stay safe, guys. That is the main message in this video. I'm sorry it's been so long. If any of you actually have any extra tips that I'd be able to pass across to Kelly, I would be very grateful for them. As I said, I am actually really worried for her safety at the moment, and I feel pretty useless because there's not a lot I can actually do for her, especially when Ashley is creeping around at stupid times in the night and potentially watching them while they're sleeping. As creepy as that sounds, it is actually a possibility that I think Ashley has actually done. Once again, I'm really sorry this has been a sergeant safety video. I just really want her safe. I really want you guys to stay safe, especially when things like this happen, and it happens a lot, and it's a very scary situation to be in. And I really hope that this helps you kind of get on with your lives and that you remember at least a little bit of this video, even if it's the story that I told you remember. As long as you remember something and hopefully some of the techniques to keep yourself safe. So if you like this video and you hopefully learnt something new, go ahead and give that like button a click. If you want to hear more from me, hit that subscribe button down below and click that little bell so you'll get a notification every time I make a video. Thank you all so much for being here with me, and I will see you all next time. Glitz out. Bye! Believe me, I've considered hitting Ashley with my car, and Kelly has told me no.